Okay, so I'm going to go through the process of doing a plus T. Now keep in mind, I have no idea what I'm doing and I'm probably not very good at it. But if you want more information, you can go on to Ruborix and look up the guide by 740ATL/Mike Jr. And if you have further questions, either search before you do or just don't ask dumb questions. So you're going to need a bunch of parts for the swap. So here's some of the parts list right here. Magic. If you have a keen eye, you may have noticed that I have the engine pulled out of the car. Now this is not entirely necessary to do the plus T. It might make it a little easier for some of the things like the oil drain, but it is possible to leave the engine in the car, even though it's not really that hard to pull the engine out. Just a heads up. FYI. Okay, let's start off with the Rubo, or some people call it the turbocharger. Now as you can see here, I just have a little teeny tiny T25. That's because I've got an old engine with 9mm rods and I got this piece of lump. So it's all just going to blow up anyway, so I'm only using a little teeny tiny turbo. If you want to go crazy, put on your twin ball bearing GT36XXX electric superchargers, whatever you want. Go nuts. Quad turbos, who cares? Go crazy. Anyway, the manifold, this here is 90 plus. This is probably the one you want. You can get these cheap on Ruborix. These flow a lot better than the earlier style, the up to 89 ones, which is why they call this a 90 plus. It's for cars made after 1990. Yay! Okay, let's start off with an oil drain for your turbo, because there's oil inside your turbo and it needs to go back into the engine. Now, there's two ways of doing this. As you can see, the way that I chose was had a AN-10 fitting welded onto the oil pan, as you can see here, and then a hose will go here and it'll go back up into the turbo. The other way to do it is this little tab right here. You can drill that out and tap it or weld a fitting on. Probably can't weld on it very well, but this is what the turbo cars had originally, and that's why this little tab's here. But if you want to drill and tap it, you can do that, or this seemed a little bit easier to just put it in the oil pan. Now this is the reason why you may have to pull the engine, or there are ways to do it. You can support the engine on some blocks of wood, drop the cross member, and pull the oil pan, because you don't want to just drill the holes in and leave all the metal in and then all your engine blows up. Unless you really want to. That's up to you. Your call. It's America. Freedom. Okay, now the oil feed. Now there's two ways to do it, like the oil drain. The first way is this little plug right here. You can remove that and have a 90-degree coming out here, have a hose fitting, and send it on your way to the turbo. Now, I am cursed with having better taste, and I have a 240, so there's an alternator here. You can do that, apparently, but you might need to grind down some of the alternator bracket stuffs, or you might have to run a longer belt or something, because it gets in the way of all the jazz. So, what the other way to do, which I now prefer, is your oil pressure switch, or you may have an oil pressure sender, maybe, who knows. I got this adapter. I got it on Amazon for cheap. You go to this T-block. You can put in an oil pressure switch or the oil pressure sender back in there. And then you can go to a fitting. I think this is the AN-6. And then you can run the lines all the way over to the turbo. So it's your call. If you have a 240, I would recommend going this way. You're going to want to upgrade your fuel injectors to something bigger. A lot of people go with the brown tops from a Turbo Ford, I think it is. I have a set of orange tops. These are from a Volvo 850 Turbo. Either way, you can get those for cheap. If you want to upgrade your spark plugs too, you might want to go to a different heat range. I think the stocks on these for NGKs are BPR 670S, and I went to the 7, or vice versa. Either way, changing your heat range because you're going from non-turbo to turbo is not a bad idea. Okay, you want to upgrade your ECU to a turbo one. The non-turbo ones don't really work with adding turbo boosts, so don't do that. That's a bad idea. You should be able to get one pretty easily. Make sure you match up. If you have an LH 2.2 car, you're going to want an LH 2.2 ECU. Makes sense? Alright, good. Otherwise, you can mega square the car, which that's probably more betters. But that's a whole nother bunch of videos and more work, so I'm not going to go into that. This is something simple, easy. Done. Okay, you will also need a downpipe. This goes on the back of the turbo and then goes to your exhaust. You can buy one off a turbo car, or you can contact the Lost Art of on Turbo Bricks and he will make you a sweet custom one like this one. Although this is an older one of his. They're even better now. So yeah, you should definitely get some of those. The intercooler. Now this is off of this one that I have here is off of a later 740 or 940 turbo. It's a little bit too wide, as you can see, and so I'm having to rotate the battery 90 degrees there because of this. There are better ones out there like the NPR, or just buy any one off of eBay and it's better than this thing. I got this through different means and it's kind of weird, long story. Anyway, you're going to want the, can you see this? You're going to want the lower intercooler and radiator brackets, and then you'll want the upper ones as well, which I'll probably show later. It's going to be a little bit longer, so as you can see, you'll have to cut a couple inches off of the hoses, like your radiator hoses, and down there. I'm using 7 to 9 series turbo pipes, and those are also a little bit longer, so I'll end up trimming a little bit off of there to make it fit. It's just like an inch or two, not really that big a deal. Okay, water lines on the turbo. You're going to want to water cool your turbo because then it won't explode as fast. So there's one hose. You're going to have to get a couple of different hoses. There's the one that comes off of your expansion tank. A lot of people go to the 740 style, which is that over there, the kind of pill-shaped one. They're like more better or something. I don't know. But yeah, so you got the upper hose, and then you got the lower hose, which you're gonna need the turbo style radiator hose because it has this T on here, and then it goes to there and it does stuff, and then there's water. Okay, compressor bypass valve. You're gonna want a compressor bypass valve. I got one that has the built-in one because this is the T25. If you get a different turbo, if you get a 15G, it should probably have one on there, but some of the other ones don't. Some of them, they call it a Pierberg valve. It's a valve that's built into the intercooler piping and bypasses it or something like that. Or you can get a blow-off valve, in which case there's some debate whether it goes before intercooler or after intercooler. From what I've heard more, though, is that it's closer to the throttle body, I think. I don't know. You can argue that in Chop Springs on the forums if you want. But either way, you're going to want to have one of those, because otherwise you'll have compressor surge, and that's bad too. Okay, you're going to want a turbo ECU. This is a turbo ECU. You're probably also going to want a turbo ignition computer, but I don't have one of those, so deal with it. This is the this is LH 2.2, so I have a 2.2 ECU. Figure out what version you have and put it on there. Okay, you're going to want also to upgrade your injectors. I have the orange tops from an 850 turbo because they're pretty easy to get, or you can get brown tops from a turbo Ford or some type of Ford. This is also the 3-bar fuel pressure regulator. It's more better than 2 or 2.5 bars, so that's cool too. Also, you can get some cool spark plug wires from Crazy Chopstick. These ones are pretty nice. They're silicone and 8mm, and I think they're pretty sweet. Even though the car hasn't run yet, it's still pretty cool.
Poison it. I promised Winnie And I will, as soon as I have sharpened my dagger. Tink, who sees its red color and remembers the red in the pilot's eye,